Imagine that you have a passion for combat sport and you're working in the prison system and you get to become the head of the recreational department and you bring boxing to the federal prisons. You get so good at it that you end up making a career change and becoming a professional referee. Well, that's the story of the guy that I'm interviewing this week. Everybody knows who this is. You haven't watched a boxing match and not seen this man, but Tony Weeks is the individual. But before we get to that, go to timlarkin.com, give us your email, and start building your own self-protection strategy for you and your family to minimize the chance of violence coming in your life. Also, please subscribe to this channel, but realize that I can't put all the content that I want to put on YouTube. So I have another channel on Rumble that has everything uncensored. There puts all the best information out. YouTube goes out of its way to squelch any of that type of information. So if you want to see everything that we have, please also subscribe to the Rumble channel. Now, getting into this interview, I was really excited. For weeks, a friend of mine who works as a cut man in MMA had told me, he said, "Hey, Tim," he goes, I really think you'd really like to interview Tony Weeks. And I knew Tony. I knew who he was. I didn't know his background. And what's so interesting about this interview is Tony talks about being in the correction system and understanding real violence and how he had to deal with all of the different prison gangs when he was putting together his boxing program. It's a fascinating story about him, too, because he wasn't traditionally trained in this. He was a very good athlete. And the way he moved in the ring is what caught the attention of a lot of people and said, "Hey, listen, this guy is just a natural. He understands where to be in the ring. He understands, how fighters, angle themselves, what's important, where he needs to be." And it's a fascinating conversation we have, not only on the idea of dealing with prison violence and how civilians really don't understand the difference between real violence and combat sports, and then also just a fascinating insight into professional sports and what it takes to be a master level referee. And he's also a judge. He also judges MMA. So he's just a great guy, lives out here in Vegas, and he's so dang busy all the time that, we had to reschedule 3 or 4 times. And he was really gracious to give us all this time. So without further ado, my interview with the master boxing referee, Tony Weeks. Tony Weeks, thanks so much for taking the time to do this interview for my people. We've had a lot of questions, and they've, in this series that I've been doing of interviews with subject matter experts, they've heard from various members of the Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla family, also corrections officers. They've also heard from, officers on the street on the idea of prison violence, what it's like to live in an environment like that. And what's unique about your background, you're known as one of the top, officiators for combat sports that's out there. And we're going to talk about that for sure. But what I think is really interesting is when people look in your history, you started making sure that within the prison system, you had an outlet for the prisoners and that you gave them the outlet of combat sports. Can you talk a little bit about that background, why you championed that, and what were the positive results of that?
Well, growing up in, Brooklyn, New York, in the hood, I understood a lot of the general mentality that, some people may have growing up in that environment. I understood that, you can get caught up in a lot of negativity. So when I came in the prison system, I came in as entry level as a guard. And then I got promoted to the recreation supervisor, where that's exactly where I wanted to stay, and because, recreation, you're dealing with the entire population. And, I wanted that one-on-one connection. Yeah. So yes, I understood that, you have to have some type of outlet. You're in prison, you're away from your family, you're in a different environment, hostile environment at times. And it's good to have some type of outlet. And what had happened was, we had an inmate there, who was a boxer, and I got in touch with one of the local trainers, to this was when I was working in a correction institution in Phoenix, Arizona.
Mhm.
um, and got in touch with him, and decided to bring some fighters up. We set the ring up there in the yard, and brought the fighters in, and the yard was packed. It was like on a Saturday afternoon, and we had almost the entire population on the yard. Anyway, yeah, and so I set up this exhibition, and I forgot to get a referee, and so I decided, I was just curious, get up there and referee the fight, and kind of keep everything in control. And I did that, and everything went well. And I started to do other things other than the boxing. I started a singing group where guys came in, and not guys, I'm sorry, a singing group within the population. And we used to put on concerts for the population, and we had a great turnout. I mean, all everybody came out to watch and listen uh, to the concert. Even the warden would come out, and a lot of the staff members would come out. And like I say, giving them these outlets, you know, can alleviate a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, uh, uh, a lot of loneliness that can go along with being incarcerated. It really, really keeps everything on the calm level, because inmates understood, they understand that if they mess up in any type of way, all these programs can be taken away. So that was, very, very positive outlook on a lot of the inmate population.
Did you get good support from the prison staff and corrections staff? Was there any resistance, thinking that by promoting combat sports or anything like that, it would promote more violence or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. But what I did was, see, when you work in a prison, everything's about security.
Right.
And so what I did, I made sure I had uh, all the security plans in place before I presented it to the authorities. And there still was some resistance. We can't bring in this equipment. There's too many people were coming in, and of course, yes, they think because it's boxing, it's going to be violent, and teaching inmates how to fight, and it wasn't that at all. I was blessed to have a warden at the time who really understood and saw what I was doing, and they saw the positive outcome from it. I mean, it was, like I say, it went over big, and from that point on, it helped me to develop other projects, like I said, with the singing group and so forth and so on. I've always been one to think outside the box, and like I say, tries to bring something that's the inmates not used to doing. I mean, you have your general sports, basketball, baseball, football, and the regular activities that they have in the prison. But I wanted to do something extra that involved all the inmates to come together and work together on that. So it was a positive. It came off really, really well. Excuse me. And the population, the staff, I said, the population really looked forward to it and really enjoyed it.
So out of necessity, you became the ref. because, obviously there's really nobody else at the time, and you jumped in and did that. And then obviously it became a profession, and you're highly, highly regarded. How did that evolve for you? There's two things that I think are really interesting. You recognize that if you don't provide some sort of an outlet for these men, they're going to find an outlet, and it's not necessarily going to be a good outlet.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it. I think people truly misunderstand. I don't, especially seemingly right now, there seems to be a true misunderstanding of men and their outlets, meaning we communicate physically a lot as guys, it's how we interact. And if we're given an opportunity to do that in a positive way, it really does alleviate a ton of additional tension in things on the social level, not on the complete criminal level. If there's a criminal aspect of things, then that's a completely different, aspect to it. But if it's just tension, if it's just, built up, it's fantastic. And what's really interesting and how I can relate to this on a much lower level, I went to an all boys Catholic high school, and that was our outlet. Our outlet was boxing. If you had an issue with anybody, you didn't have to know how to box, but you would put on boxing gloves and you get in the ring, and that's how it was resolved. Probably my class was probably one of the last ones that got to do that. But what was so interesting was it not only provided an outlet for the individuals that are participating, but the people watching really got a lot out of it too. The guys, watching, and it was in a very positive way. There's a lot of positive benefits to judiciously using combat sports. And I think that's great that was one of your, it wasn't the only one. My wife is a deputy chief out here with Metro, and they instituted a couple years ago, her group put together. And I mean, my wife, she was a hardcore street cop, counterterrorism, the whole deal. So she understands you can't arrest your way out of everything. And so what they started doing is they started bringing in yoga, meditation. They started bringing in, cooking, like how to cook, because a lot of these guys are going to go back out into society, and they got to interact. And a lot of them don't know how to even interact with their families correctly. And so they would give them the tools, and it was really appreciated. And again, as you said, it was a privilege for these guys, and they knew it, and they really, protected their ability to participate in that when they were given something, because you don't get that many opportunities in prison that are positive. And it's amazing to see what happens when you do that. You knew enough how to set it up for success, as far as you knew what the prison, administration was going to be concerned about, obviously security. You monitored all that. How did, as you went on and the events kept going, how did you get to improve your skill sets as a judge and a referee, and how did you have anybody helping you out with that, or?
Well, actually, when I put on that boxing exhibition, and I didn't know at the time, but that gave birth to what I'm doing today. And we had one of the trainers, his name was Beto Martinez. He passed away some years back, but he recognized something in me when I got up there and started officiating, refereeing the fights. Because at the end of the show, he asked me if I ever done that before. I said no. He says, "Well, I think you should look into it. You have good natural movements." And he gave me a number to call, and the rest is history. The thing about it is, I was able to have great communication with the inmate population, and I'm talking about all white, Black, Hispanic, you name it, because of the respect that they had for me, and then the respect that I gave them. So it wasn't hard for me to really, get with the population and organize these things, because I had to let them know, listen, you understand, if you, like I said, if you mess up one time, this could be taken away, just like that. But yeah, that was the very first time that I stepped in the ring and refereed a fight. I had no idea of the rules and regulations. I was just kind of like emulating Richard Steele and Mills Lane and those guys.
Yeah.
And but the good thing about it, I have it on tape. And when I look at it today, now I can see what the trainer saw in me, that I had good natural movements in the ring, because when you referee in a fight, positioning is very important to make the correct calls. And I don't look too much different today when I look at it back then. So when that happened and they gave birth to what I'm doing today, everything just started to evolve. I joined the pro ranks and in Phoenix, and just started to get fights, and just grew from there. On the job training, so to speak.
Yeah, it was interesting reading about your history. Getting back to what you're just talking about, your natural movement, is that the idea of, it's got to be this balance of making sure you're in the right place to see what you need to see without getting in the way of the actual combatants, and just you kind of naturally, your movement it's just smooth. You just know, it's like, exactly where to be, and you're never in the way. Is that just something that just naturally came to you? It sounds like it did.
Yes, that's it. Like I said, bottom line, I was a natural. Yeah. And I think it came from me being involved in athletics, football, track, basketball, and martial arts. I never really boxed, but I was in the martial arts. So I've learned to gauge my movements off of the fighters. You're not going to be in position at all times, but you want to be in position at, the majority of the time. So, I've always had the footwork and the know-how to move, in the ring. And like I say, it just came natural. Some people, have to learn, how to move. Some, every referee has pretty much have their own style. Some people like to walk, some people like to move, some people like, some referees like to just give verbal commands. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm putting hands on you as well as giving, verbal commands. But yeah, everything is natural. And what I used to do when I first started out, I used to go to the gyms and work out with the fighters, get in the ring and move around with them. And then sometimes I would just get in the ring by myself and just work on my movement. Imagine myself with two fighters in there and just, trying to, like you say, stay out the way, because, you can have some fighters in there with some fast footwork, and you don't want to get in the way. And like I say, you always want to try to be in position at least 90% of the time.
So, and the interesting thing too is you've crossed over in lots of different combat sports. You went, obviously started with boxing and stuff, but then talk about how you got into, like, I think you've done MMA, Muay Thai. Like what are the differences in the various combat sports? Is it, do you give more distance in certain types of combat sport situations? Can you be closer with other ones?
Well, yeah, I referee Muay Thai kickboxing. And with Muay Thai kickboxing, you have the kicks, of course, and so you can't really come in as quick or stay too close to them because of the kicks. So it's a little different. The MMA, I judge that, right. So I'm not in the ring. So it's totally different combat. At one point, they wanted me or asked me if I, wanted to referee, and I really didn't, because it's different mechanics in there, different rules. And, when you referee at a high level, you really want to stay focused on, what you've normally been doing. But yeah, there's a vast difference in there when you refereeing kickboxing, Muay Thai, or as opposed to regular boxing.
Are you when you're judging, are you it's got to be a different energy level for you than actually being in the ring and stuff? Are you able to be more observant as far as the totality of what's going on, rather than just being in the intimate moment there? It just seems like it takes a different approach, sitting on the side judging, versus obviously being right in there with the guys.
Oh, definitely. Because when you're in there, you're you're reacting to what's happening in there.
Right.
Whether to make a call, stop a fight, give a warning, what have you. When you're sitting there judging, you're watching the action and seeing who's landing this punch, who's landing that, who's the aggressor, so forth and so on. But I still, have the mentality of a referee, because what I mean by that is I can be judging the fight and I can understand, who's winning or who's hurt, when a fight should be stopped, or this guy's getting tired, So I think by me being a referee really helped me in the judging aspects, because it makes it a little easier. I could tell who's really winning the fight, who's dominating the fight, and how the momentum is changed from one fighter to the next.
Yeah. Going back to the prison environment, when you came from, can you share with people? I try to get across. I work with corrections in a variety of places. I did a big in-depth interview in Kern State with the Mexican mafia corrections guys, and what they've done, and kind of learning about the different cultures of the prison gangs. There's an image among the general public that it's just chaos. It's just a chaotic, hyper violent, area. Anything can happen at any time. And what was interesting is the more I went in depth and studied everything, I kind of came away with the conclusion that a book I was reading on the prison system, it was actually written by I believe a Scottish scholar that came in. But his conclusion was it actually is one of the most hyper rational hierarchies that he's ever seen, meaning they truly understood that, that violence was not just random. It was very controlled because it affected a lot of things. Like, as you said, they could have problems and lose their programs if something happened within, the boxing program you're there. But even more importantly for them, as far as, business and running the yard and who's in control and who has power, it's all very much dominated on how business is conducted, who controls what, and you have to be sanctioned to do a lot of things.
Absolutely.
I thought that was really, I think most people don't have that understanding, and I don't think they understand also the level. I was very impressed, and I don't mean it in the wrong way, but I was very impressed with the level of intelligence, especially a lot of the shot callers have in some of these larger gangs. I think it shocks people when I show some interviews that I have from the law enforcement community, that these are not knuckle draggers. These are very, they read, they educate themselves. They're very good at using the tool of violence if they need it, in a very different way than I think any of us imagine it. The criminal use of violence is very different, obviously, than the sport use of it. What was, in your time in there, in just your observations, I think people just have a fantasy that criminals are stupid, and that they're, you don't have to worry about them, as far as like, I think we have this fantasy that, somehow in society, oh, well, we're better, we're smarter, and therefore we don't have to worry about this. And I've seen that go horribly wrong when people don't understand that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very structured system or environment, so to speak. You have certain people who control the yard, and they control the housing units, no, there's the general public think there's always some chaos in there, like everybody's just going and stabbing each other and just going crazy. Right. Not at all. When something happens where there's some type of violence, there's a stabbing or beat down or what have you, is because somebody did something out of line. Right. Like you say, something wasn't approved ahead of time, or one race stepped over the boundary to another race. It's a very structured system, because that's their environment. Yeah. Everything that happens in there, everything that that's their environment. That's what they, that's where they're living. That's their world. Yeah. Inmates can take over the yard at any time they want. Okay. But they don't do that. There's no, like you say, a lot of the shot callers, and thank God for some shot callers, because they're very intelligent, very aware of what's going on, and sort of like businessmen, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they really can keep control of their gang or their people. Like I say, nobody really steps out of line until something really happens, and then they have to take some action. But no, if you have all kinds of chaos, no, they'll be locked down 24/7, or get their visits taken away. There's a lot of privileges can be taken away. So no, it's a very structured system out there, and a very disciplined system.
Yeah, I had a couple of stories that I've shared before on here, but and I won't redo those. But just to get your opinion on it, one of the shot callers that I was not. It's very funny too. You'll appreciate this. I was all green when I went in and everything, thinking, I've done all this. I've interviewed all these other guys in spec ops community. I can do this, this, and this. And I talked to one of the top guys who in the corrections, in California corrections. And I said, hey, I want to talk to this guy. And he's a shot caller for Lyme. And I'd done a lot of research with him, and he just looks at me kind of like, oh, okay, we could go ahead and make that request. He goes, you are prepared though, right? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, well, they're going to know every piece of property that you own. They're going to know everything about you. They're going to know everything about your family. They'll run. They have people that will just run you and know who you are. He said, or you could give me the list of questions and I could do it, because I already lived that way. It was really interesting to get that aspect of it, and just me with my hubris quickly getting in check and realizing, okay, yeah, I'm entering a whole different world here when I come in. And what was interesting was this guy, the questions that I asked, one of the things that came back was I got from him that the use of violence, for the most part, is very calculated, and that it has to be done. You have to be credible. You have to have a credible threat. That was his whole thing. He said, we have to at all times have the credible threat of violence behind us. We have to be able to back everything up that way. He goes, that's our currency. That's what gets everything done. He goes, but we have to be very judicious in how we use it for the reasons that you outlined, because they can lose, business power, all of that. And what I thought was really interesting too is how methodical they are. I looked at Black Guerrilla Family, the AB, and groups within the AB, and then also Mexican Mafia, the Serranos, and everybody else. What was really interesting across the board, all of them at the higher levels, the shot caller level, as far as violence is concerned, they were very specific in their studies. They studied anatomy. They understood where, if they had to use violence, and if it was to, do an assassination or something like that, they realized they're probably only gonna get that one chance, and therefore they have to get it right. And they were very specific in how they would go after somebody. And if they had to make a statement, that was the other thing that was really interesting. People don't understand this. They had one guy in the Mexican Mafia, I guess, that was selling bad dope to an AB member in another facility. The AB goes to the Mexican Mafia, says, hey, you got to clean this up. You guys doing this, selling bad stuff. Either you take care of it or we take care of it. They did a very public takeout of the captain that was selling the bad stuff. The Mexican Mafia did, to show everybody that, hey, we take care of our own. Business is business. This will not happen. It was really, everything that I read, I come from the special operations community. We read tons of strategy, Sun Tzu. These guys did it at such a high level. Everything they were doing just fits right into those strategy documents on, controlling people, on how to, how to operate in essentially a lawless environment. Not that corrections wasn't there, but corrections wasn't there to really, they didn't really have anywhere to go when their legal businesses went wrong or anything. They had to police themselves. And it was interesting how they did that through this credible threat of violence.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You hit it on the head, the nail on the head when you say if you had, um, there was an incident where a black inmate crossed the line on one of the white inmates, and the shot callers came together, and the black shot caller said, we'll take care of it. And what they did was they went in, they gave a guy a little beat down, a good beat down with one of the representatives from the area watching it, and he's satisfied. He was satisfied. Took care of it. So yeah, that's it's very important that to them that they police their own. Um, you was talking about the shot callers. Going back to when I first was trying to implement these programs, especially um, when you have these different groups coming together. I had a meeting with all the shot callers. I'm in this room with all the shot callers, and I just laid it out what I wanted to do, and what I was all about. At the time, like I said, I had the respect of everybody. So it was different. Like you say, it was different me coming up to them as opposed to you, coming in there. They knew what I was all about, but I just had to present it to them, out of respect, and get the approval from everybody. Yeah, like it, yeah. People have no idea. The general public has no idea uh, what that environment is really all about. I hear things from the general public. Oh, they get to watch HBO, or they get this program, they get that program, and you just can't lock them up and throw the key away. And no, like you said in the beginning, you have to have these outlets.
Yeah. Tony, I just recently, I don't know how the hell I did this, but I escaped COVID all the way through. And then just 2 weeks ago, I just got it for the first time. I mean, this is a variant going around Vegas, nailed me, right? So I'm I got a little casita in my house, and I stayed in it. I was in there only 4 days. I was, it's amazing. And I'm not somebody that needs to be around a lot of people all the time, but I was going stir crazy, and I was sitting there just trying to, you can only read so much. You can only, watch so many things. You can only work out so much, which I couldn't really work out too much.
Yeah.
But I don't think people understand what it's like to be in an environment like that. And I don't think, when I go to prisons to do my research or to visit and do some of the programs that I do there, it just shocks me. I would encourage anybody to do a prison visit just to see what it's like, and they'd be wildly surprised. But to survive in that environment, and the fact that you went in, I don't think people appreciate this enough. You didn't say it this way, but I can imagine it. You approached these shot callers and you gave them respect as people. You're not buying into the criminal stuff or anything like that, but you're saying, hey guys, you're in this environment. I have the ability to bring this type of a program that I think would be positive for all of us, but I got to have you guys work together on this, or this thing's going to just going to, go away. And for you to be able to do that, that's a ballsy move. I mean, because you're dealing on both sides. You have to deal with your administration, and then you have to deal with their administration, and that's not an easy thing to navigate.
No, it's definitely a tricky balance, so to speak. From the staff side of it, you get a lot of staff members. Oh, he's getting too friendly with the inmates, or he's got something going with the, there was some type of negative talk, and but no, I understood what I was doing. I understood the importance of what I was trying to do. And, matter of fact, when I retired, they understood that no one else was going to do this again.
Right.
That this was going to, it wasn't going to be the same. And so, they understood that. But while I was there in the 25 years I was there, I touched a lot of lives, and actually a lot of people come up to me either at the fights or somewhere on the street, yeah, either a friend of theirs was there, and they'll say a name, and oh yeah, they spoke highly of you, and you did this and you did that. Oh, I see some of them at the fights, and they come up
Yeah.
to me, hey, this is my wife, this is my daughter. It's a positive type, a reunion, so to speak. And I try to tell or teach some of the new guards coming in that you don't have to have this John Wayne type of attitude like you're gonna run everybody out of town for sundown. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be a level of respect there, and the respect goes a long way. It really goes a long way in the prison system, because it is very, very hard. I mean, you have a lot of staff up there that have respect in a certain way, but it's very hard for the inmate population to really respect you. When you're on the other side, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, but like I say, um, they gave me the opportunity. The shot calls, they gave me the opportunity to do it, and yeah, of course, they're going to monitor it and see, where it's at. And they saw that no, I had no underlying alternative. No, I was doing something sincere from my heart, and like I say, it was a positive thing. And actually, when I was getting ready to retire, and actually it was a mandatory retirement age limit, and all the shot callers came together and gave me a party, going away party, and all of them got up and spoke, and it was a great feeling that I never really knew and understood how many lives that I touched, and I probably still don't know, but yeah. And one thing about working in any prison system, but I worked in the federal prison system, but uh, there is a communication outlet that your reputation goes throughout every institution that's in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, because they transfer here and there, and it's either going to be positive or negative. There's no in between. Uh, so once again, I've had people come up to me who hey, I was in this prison, but I never worked with you, but I heard this about you, blah blah blah. And the thing about with me personally, yeah, I'm not too hard to find.
You're right.
you know. Uh, but yeah, no, that was my attitude, coming in the system, because, like I said, once again, I understood, coming from uh, my environment, growing up in Brooklyn. I understood some of the vices that you can get caught up in, and like I said, I don't condone any type of violence or breaking the law or anything, but I understand, how people get caught up. And like I said, everything is about survival. I wanted to survive in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, every day, you go in there, and your life is on the line. You're in their house, you're in their environment. They, like I said, they can take it over at any time. They allow you to go home. The general public don't really realize that. There's a lot of situations you get caught up in, and yeah. So, but when you have that general respect from everybody, and especially the shot callers, because when some of the new inmates come on the yard, they'll point it out. No, that guy right there, no, you give him respect. You don't, yeah, yeah. So, I wasn't ready to leave, but like I say, it was a mandatory a retirement because of the age limit, and I was really kind of sad to leave, because I enjoyed what I was doing, and when you see the positive response that you get, you can't beat it. I mean, the inmates would come up to me, thanks for putting the show on, thanks for doing that, and everything was cool and calm. Yeah, you can't beat that in that environment. You're always going to have, it's a prison, and you're always going to have something going on, but you want to try to minimize it as much as you can.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say it that way, because the interesting part to me is showing respect. I think I want to clarify this for everybody. Showing respect does not mean, like you said, condoning any of the criminal acts or anything, but it's recognizing that you're a person. And hey, in this environment, here's what we've got. If you conduct yourself this way, we're going to be fine. Everything's great. That's respect. That's not, you're not dictating to them. You're giving them the option. You're saying, here's something I can bring, but it's not going to work unless you guys bring this. And just that human touch. That the one thing I think that struck me when I got to know some of these alpha individuals within the system on both sides, the corrections guy, there's some amazing corrections people, and the intelligence you can learn from tattoos, from it's just amazing to me. It's just it's a whole other subculture that I don't think gets enough attention in some ways. But what I thought was really interesting was the understanding that a lot of the shot callers have on human nature is now again on the darker side of human nature, but they truly understand these guys will see right through you, it's because they have to survive. They have to be able to pick out who's real and who's not very quickly. And the vetting process they have for certain things is it's far superior to anything I've seen in the corporate world, when they try to, pick new leaders and stuff like that. It's really interesting. But on the other side of that, the positive side of it, it's sad because you have just identified something that I think the organizations, the corrections, policing, it's an individual like yourself. It truly is an individual that grabs it literally by the leads and creates the program and is there and is that force, that personality that just comes in every so often, they come in. But the sad part is they don't cultivate another one. They'll literally let a positive program like that die, and they'll try to just administrate it rather than realizing that it needs dynamic leadership. And I don't know the answer to that, but it's so sad. I've heard so many positive programs that either, they're still there, but they're nothing like they used to be because that leader's gone now.
Yeah. That's so unfortunate. So, sad, because like I told them, when I leave, don't expect this to continue. Certain, there's, like I say, there's some good staff members up there who understands or understood, the environment. Unfortunately, there was, a lot of them wasn't in the recreation field where I was, like I say, where you can put on these type of programs and stuff. I wish that people could see and understand, people like me, what we try to do, and the positive outcome that it has on the inmate population. Some people, you think you have to be hard, and you don't have to be hard all the time. Excuse me. It's just like when I'm refereeing a fight, guy strays a little low, I ain't got to stop the fight and jump all over him. No, you go according to what the situation is, and that's all it is. But yeah, it's just sad that we can't have more of this, type of thinking and understanding, so things could go along a little smoother, because like I say, our lives are on the line. We're in their environment and our lives on the line. And when you have these outlets, like I talked about before, you can alleviate a lot of that stuff, a lot of that tension. And it was like I say, it was very sad when I left.
Yeah,
for me.
I have a generally, I guess I don't say dismal, but I'm not very positive about where we're at right now as a society when it comes to young men, especially, and providing outlets for young men that are proper. I think we're trying to suppress natural athleticism and physical energy that needs to be properly given a proper outlet. Some of it can be, contact sports like, football and stuff. That's great. But, combat sports are such a great positive outlet, because the aftermath that I've seen in most combat sports situations is a calmness comes over. Lots of times reconciliations that are great. I had one beacon of hope that I've shared a couple of times, and I'll just tell you, just I think you'll appreciate it. I was out here in Summerlin going on a walk. I do a weight vest walk, and I'm walking through this park. It's one part of my journey, and I see this group of kids. It's a group of all young males, and they're dressed in like PE clothes, But I know something's going on. This big circle, and I'm looking, and as I get closer, I go, "Oh shit, they got a fight going on there." But they had boxing gloves. Yeah. They had a ref. They had a guy calling the time. This is just kids, no adults anywhere. So I walked by the first time. I don't say anything. They kind of look at me. I think they thought maybe I was going to try to break it up, or maybe I was an undercover cop or something, the way I was dressed. Second time around, I couldn't help myself. I had to go up there and talk to him. And I said, "Hey guys, what do you got going on here?" And they looked at me. I go, no, hey, I'm fine with this. I'm just curious. How did you guys come to this? And they go, "Well, this guy has a problem with this guy." And the other guy yells out right away, "Yeah, he said this about my mom." And so then the kid stopped. He goes, "So we decided, this needs to get resolved. So we're going to do it this way." And we agreed upon the rules. They told the whole thing. And none of them were formally trained or anything like that. I mean, they were okay for what they're doing. But I just was so hopeful. I was like, this is great to see these kids do this. And they realize it's a positive way to take care of something that could go horribly wrong if they left it alone. Yeah. And that to me is great. But that used to be more normal than it is today. Today, it's highly discouraged. And I'm sure if the wrong individual had come by there, they probably would have tried to interfere with what was going on.
Oh, absolutely. That, like you say, that energy has to be released. That negative energy has to be released. And, like you say, those kids, you put on the gloves and you go at it, and then, afterwards you no matter who beat up who, but you're exhausted, and, and that negative energy has been released, and it's like, okay, we did it. Let's, we cool now. That type thing, instead of, going out and, getting a gun or whatever, and doing it in that way. That type of thinking, that's what we need. It's like, especially amongst the youth. And because there's no harm and no foul in guys putting on the gloves and going at it. Because let me tell you, boxing, if you're not in condition, you're gonna gas out in the first 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it releases a ton of negative energy.
I remember as a kid training in San Diego in boxing. I remember one of the first 3-round bouts I had. Both me and the other guy, and we thought we were in condition. It was round 2, and I think we were both hoping the other would knock each other out, because we just wanted it to end. I mean, if you've never experienced that, it's incredible. So thank you for that, and I appreciate going over that part of it, because of course everybody wants to normally talk to you about all the fun stuff, and I do too. But my question is, you've been doing this professionally now in boxing and all the other disciplines for 20-something years, and I gotta say, you've had to have seen just a renaissance in combat sports during that time. And can you talk to a little bit about the athletic development of the fighters, and just there just seems to be like this ever increasing skill level that is just so impressive to watch. And have you, I mean, what was it like when you first started out to where what you're seeing now?
Yeah. Well, like in anything, the sport is constantly evolving. The athletes are constantly evolving and getting better, getting better techniques, better training, understanding what they need to do to be at that top level. And especially when MMA came out, yeah. When, if you remember, like the first couple of UFCs, if you show a UFC fight in the beginning as opposed to now, you'll see two totally different type of combats. Um, yeah, the skill level, is just like these guys are constantly improving, constantly. The training is better, the diets are better. Yeah, like I say, I've seen going to boxing. I've seen I can go into amateur boxing gyms and work out with the amateur fighters because they're much more advanced than the amateurs back then when I started officiating. Excuse me. Yeah, you getting it's a different type of athlete today. That these guys really have a lot more skill level yeah, today, because like I say, in their sport, whether it's MMA or boxing or kickboxing, the sport is constantly evolving. And I mean, no one ever thought that you would have a 5 minute round. 3 minutes is long enough. Um, so you have to be in tremendous shape, tremendous condition to to survive in those particular combat sports. So it's yeah, I've just seen the athletes in period just evolve with the sport.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I grew up, in the '70s. Growing up, it was the Ali years and Foreman and all the greats. And as a little kid, just watching everybody. My grandfather was a huge boxing fan, and so for me, it was boxing. Then as a kid, I was a Navy kid, so I moved all around. Then I got introduced to martial arts at the bases when it came around. But boxing was always, still first love, and I love it. There's been a lot of positives I've seen in boxing, last couple of years, a lot of really great fights and stuff. I just wish, I wish it was more widely available to a lot of the kids, because I think boxing is just such a good discipline for kids,
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
young men. And I understand why MMA is so important, so popular right now. I get that.
Yeah.
But I really, the ability to really understand boxing and to train properly and go through that, it's such a level of discipline for a young man that it's a shame that it's not more prevalent.
Absolutely. I mean, the key word that you said there is discipline.
Yeah.
It's a discipline. You have to be disciplined. Yeah, you're not going to survive. You're not going to reach a high level without the discipline. And with the boxing is so important. And going back to what I was saying with the MMA, a lot of the MMA was with the kicks and grappling and stuff. But now they've evolved and see that no, you need some good boxing skills in there as well. So they implement that in their repertoire. And so no, boxing is very it's very difficult sometimes to really understand the science of the sport. The jab, very important, sets up the right cross or the hook to the body. The strategy, the footwork that you need to have to get in position to throw a counter punch or what have you. So yeah, no, discipline is a major part of it all, and it's a major part of the athletes, just evolving with the continuing evolving with the sports.
Yeah, it's just so funny you're saying that. I remember my coach when I was a kid, he wouldn't even look at our upper bodies at first. He'd just watch our footwork. He'd watch where he goes, I can change. He goes, 90% of what I need to change is down here. He goes, everything else is easy after that. And you really taught me a lot about how important it was where to step. And to me, I love during a fight just to watch the footwork and just see where you can really tell a lot about a fighter, and how they were trained.
Absolutely.
When you watch that. And to me, it's just amazing. But you've got one of those jobs that just, and you earned every aspect of it, but my God, it must just be, you must just sit there and go, oh yeah, gotta go do another huge fight this weekend, or go do something. I mean, it must just be really, the energy, everything must be really kind of cool. I mean, I'm sure the travel gets old sometimes, but
it's still so surreal to me, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing. Travel the world. I'm in the ring there with some of the greatest athletes in the world. You know, walking in the arena, uh, T-Mobile Arena, Mandalay Bay, MGM Grand, and you know, 20,000 people, celebrities all over the place. No, you know, it's still so new to me. You know, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
what a privileged job, because you know, not everybody can do what we do.
No.
Okay, it's a very, very tough job, and people don't, you know, people criticize us a lot of times, but they don't realize or understand the difficulties that we put in a situation. You know, it's a fight, but a fight with rules, and certain things could happen in there, and there's certain things you have to recognize. Um, our top priority is safety first.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, when we stop a fight, you know, the crowd, or even for some of the fighters, don't agree with it, but no one bears any responsibility for that but us in that that ring, in that environment. But you know, hey, I really love what I'm doing, and you have to have a love and respect for it, because it's too much pressure just to do it. If you know, somebody say that they tell me all the time, "Oh man, I want to be famous like you," or "I want to make," excuse me, "I want to make other money. I want to be on TV," and you get in it for the wrong reasons. You know, you're not going to last, because you don't have a respect for it. You don't have a love for it, and you know, because you're going to come up, you know, you're going to be in a lot of tough positions, you know, and especially with today's mass media, where everything just goes out with a touch of a button throughout the world. Yeah. Yeah, so the world's gonna know what you did on Saturday night, or what you didn't do on Saturday night. But yeah, you know, getting back to it, you know, I just love what I'm doing, and I have respect. And there's times where it's like, you know, yeah, like in anything, it's like, man, I don't need to take this abuse, or you know, this, you know, you had a tough situation in the ring, but it all comes back to you because of the love and respect you have for the sport.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the experts and their lazy boys drinking their 40s while they're you know, making the calls. Obviously, they got it better than you, and
oh yeah,
it's so I love all that when I see that. I mean, what it takes to do what you guys do is just incredible. I mean, to get in there and do that, and the safety of the fighters. I mean, as a young kid, you know, I told you my grandfather was really big in Boston. He'd take me around, and he would introduce me to some old fighters, and you know, a lot of them were punch drunk, and just, you know, it's horrible. And you guys, I think, are so good at getting in there before it gets bad. And a lot of times the general public doesn't even know. They don't understand how much abuse this individual has taken already. Right. And I think that's great that you guys are way more proactive that way.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be, you know, fighters, they take punishment in training and sparring. They take punishment in the actual fight itself. Excuse me. And you know, we're right there, and we see the reaction to some of the fighters when they get hit with a solid punch or a hard punch, and you know. The you know, the general public, you know, a lot of people who have never even took a punch or even gotten a fight, so they don't really understand what it's all about, to be exhausted, hurt, and still have to fight on, still have to protect yourself as a fighter. I have a lot of respect for any fighter that's willing to step through those ropes and lay everything on the line, because that's what they're actually doing. When any fighter, I don't care what level you are, when you step through those ropes, you're laying the ultimate on the line.
Yeah, and it's you, man. It's just you. You know, it's you give. Yes, you got your coach. Yes, you get, but it's you in the ring. It's you in the ring against the other guy, and the whole world will watch. And it's just that's a lot, man. That takes a lot of. It just takes a lot of you know, confidence and discipline to put yourself out there like that. And so like I said, I grew up on combat sports, love it. It's a thrill to be able to talk to you because I've watched you for years. And when my friend reached out and suggested you, I was just like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. Everybody's going to really, really enjoy this, Tony, but I want to be respectful of your time. If people wanted to contact you, do you have a preferred way you like to interact with the general public?
What in terms
And
of
if not, that's okay.
yeah, yeah, keep it. Yeah, I'm cool. You know, yeah, you know, I have, you know, I'm only on Facebook. You know, someone wants to befriend me, that's cool. You know,
Okay.
yeah, and
Well, great.
stuff.
Well, we'll probably have a lot of follow-up questions and stuff that maybe if
Oh,
you
they
have
can
some,
relate to, they can, you
I
know,
will
you,
definitely do that.
and you can relate it back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, thank you so much. Your schedule's so busy. You've been so generous with your time. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best in the coming year. And thanks again for your service. Thanks for keeping the community safe with your original programs. I mean, I don't think people understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, you probably you didn't reach everybody, but look at all the people you did reach that still are reaching out to you. That you made a difference, and
Absolutely.
I don't think the general public appreciates that enough. We need a lot more people in the system like you to help mitigate an ongoing problem that we have with crime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for having me, and I appreciate what you do. You know, putting the information out there and going directly to the horse's mouth, so to speak, and let them tell you exactly, you know, how it is and what it is, and yeah, so forth and so on. So thank you for having me, and thank you for doing what you do.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you do like this content, make sure that you have subscribed to the YouTube channel. But also, if you want to see everything that I put out, everything uncensored, straightforward, not squelched by big tech, also join our Rumble channel. It's all down in the show notes. That way you get everything that I put out. Unfortunately, big tech has put a crunch on me being able to get this information to you. That's why I created the alternative channel with Rumble. Also, if you are ready to start training right away, please go to timlarkin.com, sign up for our free masterclass, and start putting together a plan that will minimize the chance of violence coming into your life and your family's life. Thanks again for watching, and please support the channel.